All right, let's do this. We got Coach K, we've got Sage, and we're on to another interview of kind of going through and sharing knowledge of the different types of coaching and the different perspectives in youth softball training. That's kind of where we're headed. So, Coach K, can you introduce yourself and your experience and kind of your view of softball?
Sure. Good morning. My name is Coach K. It's Jim Kulikowski, but I go by Coach K. It's easier than Kulikowski. I have been coaching softball for almost 30 years. I played and still play men's fast pitch softball that I took up to help me become a better coach of fast pitch. And it's really helped me. I would do the drills the same time that my catchers would do drills. So it gave me some validation and if I could do it, they could do it. um, I follow you because of the great information that you provide that helps me be a better coach. And I have coached primarily in very urban areas, the suburbs of Chicago. But in the recent past, in the last 4 years, I've been coaching in extremely rural areas. And what I found is that there are great differences, primarily in the facilities that are available, the coaching that's available, the opportunities for the girls to play. My girls here in rural Missouri, a town called Houston, Missouri, they've got to travel 45 minutes just to find one travel team. I'm not aware of any pitching coaching that's available anywhere closer than at least an hour away. And my girls have been fortunate to find DR3 Fast Pitch, if I can put in a plug for them.
Yeah.
It's an organization that provides online pitching, and it has been fantastic. It's really helped our pitchers in our program. They don't have like the urban areas where they've got four different fast pitching coaches to choose from. They don't have any. And I find that coaching in the rural areas, it's a challenge. One of the bigger challenges, and that's what I would like you to talk about today. My girls have to play three different sports. They can't concentrate just on fast pitch softball. They've got to play volleyball. They do track. They play basketball. They can't concentrate just on softball. So my challenge to you, or my question to you, is how do I incorporate fundamentals into our program when, our biggest thing, we get our girls in March, and within 2 or 3 weeks, we're playing games, and we don't have a lot of time to work on fundamentals. We primarily focus on the game. How do we incorporate playing the game in the short time that we have? And the thing that comes up is inevitably it's the fundamentals that let us down in the big games. So what I'm looking for you to provide is how do I, intensify that program on working fundamentals so it's not those things that let us down in the big game. And that's what I would say is my pain point right now is trying to adjust my coaching to rural America. I've got different challenges here where we don't have the facilities, we don't have the coaching, the travel teams, the information that's available. I've got to get that to kids at a much younger age. And it's not just the kids, it's the parents and the coaches in this area. They have no idea about the recruiting process. And it really tugged at my heart last year when we had kids that were, better players than some that I've coached in the rural area that had absolutely no idea about the recruiting process. And it really hurt me to see that they didn't move on to play in college. And that's what I want to change in this rural area is to help them to understand that. And the other thing that happens in the rural area is just the culture. They don't understand what's available to them outside of the rural area, and a lot of them don't want to leave the rural area. And so I really want to help them with that and get that message to the players at the younger age when they're in, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. This is what you need to be aware of so that you're ready for the future. I've got some really good juniors now that they just graduated from sophomore to junior that they're behind, and I've got to get them caught up because we've got a tremendous group of athletes at that age that want to play in college, and I've got to get them caught up. So, like I said, my pain point is how do I incorporate what you offer into my players when they have a short window of opportunity? And that's really what I look to you for help. And I guess the advice that I would offer to coaches is be willing to change. I started coaching when they talked about squish the bug. Um, we didn't have people like Austin Wasserman around to teach the fundamentals of power throwing, and they still do things the old way around here. And I've got to figure out ways to get them to change that. And I would say that that's my biggest thing. If I were to offer advice, be open to change because things do change, whether it be the drills that we use, the technology, the environment. And there's issues today that they weren't issues back when I started coaching 30 years ago. And that's things like the mental part of things. You didn't even think about those things back then. So that's what I would say if I were to offer advice, be open to change.
I love that. Well, you kicked us off, right? I have got some notes here. Three or four different things that I definitely want to touch on. The first thing that you talked about was just the fundamentals, right? And getting your girls started a little bit earlier. At what? Am I right in to assume that you're coaching them in high school?
Yeah, so I came here 2 years ago. I met up with the high school coach and I said, here's who I am. I moved here to be with my family. This is what I've done. I'm active in the NFCA. I want to help. And, it was pretty much, him getting to know me and be open to change, me understanding the environment. And, I got my eyes open really quickly to see that they didn't have a lot of opportunity. They didn't know what was there. And I'm still, quite frankly, learning what's the best way that I can help these kids out. I started with the high school, but now I'm starting to work with the younger kids with the in-house programs that they have here. And I've realized that I've got to get it all the way down to the 8-year-olds, the 10-year-olds. How do I affect those organizations? And I'm getting myself in there. We've been fortunate that one of the dads of the players is a businessman here in the community. He bought an old bowling alley that he's turned into a hitting facility for softball and baseball. And we're getting, the opportunities now to work with these kids. I mentioned to you before we came on here on the call that we run clinics for the younger players. We've been doing that this week for 3 days, and it's really neat. One of the things that I always talk about is, the 8-year-old, the 10-year-old, the 12-year-old, the worst kid that's there by the time they get to high school could be the best. And to see how you can mold these players. I just get the kick out of working with the younger kids because you don't know how good they're going to become when they're in high school. And it's really neat to give them that opportunity. And we're able to do that now because of the facilities that we're getting and the coaching that we can give to these parents that are going to help out. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I think you're definitely on the right track. I would say, in terms of fundamentals for your high school kids, yeah, their journey should be starting when they're 10, 11, 12. If not, when they're sixth, seventh, eighth grade. Because I mean, that's not just going to give them more hours, more years, more reps of doing the correct way, or at least developing hand-eye coordination so that they're not developing bad habits of the incorrect ways. Um, but it will kind of instill that learning mentality, that growth mentality, and the whole process. Because once they get to high school and they pick up a softball, say they pick it up when they're eighth grade, say they pick it up when they're ninth grade, and they really like it and they enjoy it. How frustrating is it to fail because we can't catch and throw versus fail in the actual game of it all, right? Like once you get to the competition, that's, I mean, that's the game that we're actually playing is who can score the most runs and who has the most points at the end, right? I mean, when you've played this game for long
Absolutely.
enough, that's who wins. But it's so frustrating to be in a situation where that you've got that competitive mindset, that drive, that love for the game, but the fundamentals aren't supporting where you could potentially go with it. So I hear you, and I think you are 100% on the right track by trying to develop them early, not just develop, but get them introduced to the game and get them having fun with it and being involved in clinics. Now, in terms of where you're at currently right now with your high schoolers, okay, so you get them in ninth grade and maybe you haven't had the chance to develop them. It's not, okay, you're a lost cause. I'm going to wait until all these fifth graders come up to the high school. No, let's get them
Right.
doing 10 minutes a day of fundamentals. Because the cool thing about defense is it's my belief that it is a world easier than hitting. Okay. In terms of fundamentals and how you can develop very, very quickly. Now, ninth graders will have a lot of bad habits if they've maybe played softball a year or two before. You're going to see the worst habits probably in how they're catching, like how they're actually able
Yep.
to defend themselves. It turns into defending their face versus actually getting behind and sticking in and controlling where the pocket is. So we've got to start there. Probably I would go your preseason, fall season, and you again, this is something else you brought up. You don't even get a preseason, fall season because they're playing other sports.
Yep.
So, and this is where the 10 minutes a day comes in of hey, if you want to start playing softball in the fall, some of these drills can help you in other sports that you might play, maybe basketball, hand-eye coordination. I didn't play basketball growing up. When I got to high school, the JV team recruited me because I could catch a ball. Like I had hand-eye coordination and I could swat the ball away and play great defense because I was an athlete. And that's what these kids, what I'm hearing is they've got a lot of talent of just athleticism, but maybe not the skill that goes with what you need to get to higher levels and to kind of complete the circle of um, development. I think that playing other sports is a great thing. It's going to keep them from injury for sure. But in terms of focus and the amount of hours that are needed to develop fundamentals, you can't replace that. So how are we going to implement that in kind of their daily habits that is going to help support success in their season? And I would say you said you were waiting for my book. We've got the coach manual, probably is the one that you're waiting for, or the Black Book of Drills. Either one of those, you're going to be able to find at least a 10-minute routine. And by 10-minute routine, that might be wall ball against the wall.
Sure.
300, you can get 300 reps in probably 10 minutes over and over and over and catching it in the same spot. The thing that you're going to battle is that's a lot more boring than going out and running on the field and having your adrenaline pump and go, okay, I'm either going to catch it or not, right? It's not a game, but being able to communicate that these are the things that are needed to be successful, and that's tough when you haven't gotten them from a young age. Because they're 8, 9, 10, they're able to develop the fundamentals. They're able to feel it in the game, feel the pain of balls going underneath their legs or overthrowing their first baseman when they're 9 years old, and going, okay, how do I not have that happen again? So there's definitely a balance because you also touched on the mental piece. And me being here in Southern California, having the resources, having the facilities, having the culture of softball just all around us, right? People are getting their 4 and 5 year old kids like bats and gloves, and we're out here throwing. Um, it's a great thing, but also the cool thing about your situation is you still have that like love at first sight of softball of the ninth graders, and they don't have the pressure or the overthinking. They're just out there like, all right, let's go, let's compete. And that's a really cool part. So there's so many pieces to solving this riddle that is rural softball, and being in kind of the smaller softball area. But I think you're definitely on the right track, getting younger kids involved. In terms of seeking out information, you mentioned NFCA, you mentioned recruiting. NFCA, there's so many resources, but putting it together in a way that families can understand and uh, use is definitely a task. And you're only one guy, so so hats off to you for like getting all of this, I don't know, together and trying to formulate a plan uh, for your area. But I guess overall thought that I have is you can't replace the amount of work that's going on in more urban areas, I guess, for lack of better word. There are more reps happening, which is going to really, really improve fundamentals. In
Yep.
terms, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I want to say a couple of things, but I absolutely agree, and that's one of the things that I'm going to ask you for advice on is, it's going to be quality over quantity,
Mhm.
and picking the things that will get the most bang for the buck. The one thing that I have, and it's a really big success story that I want to bring out. When I got here, the freshman class was very raw, but very athletic and very enthused about wanting to learn. And our freshman class, when I got here, they were primarily used in practice as base runners. That is all they were used for. I'm exaggerating a little, but not much. And these girls, though, they had the drive and they had the desire to improve. And when they were freshmen, that's basically all they did. They got no playing time. They have JV games, and the JV games, they call them 3-3-3. 3 outs, 3 runs, 3 innings. That's it. And the quality of pitching, your runs were basically scored by walks. They really got nothing. However, they had a strong desire to play good and to improve. And their freshman year, we won our district. We went on to play in the quarterfinals, but we lost 7 starters. Those 7 starters were replaced by 5 of those freshmen. And it was believed that this was going to be a rebuilding year. We would do okay because they were, hard workers and they put in the time. But we wound up making it to the quarterfinals again. They all developed. And one of the greatest success stories, the father of one of the players is the person that built that bowling alley into a hitting facility. I have never seen a girl work as hard as this girl. And you would just sit there and go, when is it going to click? When is all the time that she put in to hitting and fielding in that facility? I swear to God, she lived there. And about 3 weeks before playoffs, it just clicked in a JV game. She hit a home run. And I swear to God, there's a little person inside everybody's body that flips switches, and that little person flipped the switch and turned her into a hitter in that JV game. And oh my God, all of a sudden, she went from being someone who hardly played varsity to now she was a starter. And by the end of the season, she was a number 3 hitter on the team. And arguably, by the time playoffs came, the best hitter on the team. And those girls, those 5 new starters, we made it to the quarterfinals again. And it was amazing. And it was because of the work. And the point that I'm making now is the work ethic of those girls is going to filter down to now the sophomores, now the freshmen. They're going to instill that because they are leaders into the players. And we are developing a team culture, which is something else that I've worked on. Is I'm a big believer in culture is something that's developed. It's not allowed to just happen. And it's so neat to see now we've got another group of 8th graders who just graduated that are freshmen that are athletic. And that group of now juniors are going to instill that culture in them. And it's really neat that we're going to just keep developing. And I believe that our team next year is going to be even better because we're going to have 8th graders that are going to contribute. And it's really neat that that work ethic is what's really going to drive them to work on those fundamentals. The part that you said, it's going to be boring. It's not as neat as playing the game, but these girls see the results and they're going to instill that in the younger players. And, I told you about the clinic that we did today. The coaches in that clinic were those players. And it's really neat to see them working with the younger kids. So that's one thing that we have on our side that's going to help us because they now see where the fundamentals, the work pays off, and they're not going to let those kids be bored. And one other story. I'm always good for stories. One of our juniors this year is going to be a senior. He's just kind of a ho hum kind of kid. And if you would have seen the fun that she was having this year during games, I told the parents, I'm like, Sophie's a different player. And it is, it's contagious. And I think that they'll see how the fundamentals lead to that fun during the games. And that's what's really going to help us.
Those are really cool stories. And the what I got out of it is I think I said, you're only one guy. And what's really, really cool is uh leadership starts at the top, and you're creating players that mirror your passion for the game. They mirror your uh values and priorities in that learning process. And it's not just you anymore. That's the coolest
Not
part.
it is so cool to see them and to hear the little things that I say, to hear them say it. Belly button to the pitcher. Um, just different things that drills that I've learned that I taught them. I mean, one of the things that's so cool about this, there's very little of what I teach that I develop. Um, there may be a couple of things, but I got everything from Cindy Bristow, Coach Hutch, um, uh, the coaches at UCLA, um, uh, that I've sat with at dinners at the NFCA convention. Um, you know, I didn't develop any of this. I steal it from everybody, and it's so neat. But then to see them doing it, it really is. It's kind of neat. I've got mini me's out there, and that's part of what's so cool about the game of softball and the coaches in softball. Um, Coach Hutch, one time when I was first becoming a coach, she literally gave me her computer and said, "Copy whatever you want off of it." And she didn't know me from Adam, and it's so neat. And I see them today. Coach Bristow, who I had a kid that was afraid of the ball, who'd never been hit, and I sat there with Coach Bristow at an NFCA convention, and I said, "What can we do to help her? She's never been hit. I don't understand why she's afraid." And we were trying to figure it out, and she goes, "I got it. Turn her into a catcher." And we had her be like my bullpen catcher. And then she moved from that to put a glove on her right hand and catch the ball coming in. And then she hit, and she went from a kid that wasn't good enough to make her high school team to walking on at a college and getting a scholarship within her first year because she learned not to be afraid of the ball and pull the ball. It was amazing. And those are the things that make this game so great, is that you've got everybody willing to help anybody. And it's neat. And that's why I reached out to you, because I felt like you would help, and you did. So yeah, I'm excited about this.
Yeah, no, I'm excited too. I think there's a lot of people in your position that you don't even know, right? That we're going to impact just by sharing this video. And I don't know. I think that softball is a very collaborative type of sport. Like you said that in the very beginning, right? How cool it is, how anybody is willing to help anyone. And I think the reason why I'm still in coaching isn't so much like that I love ground balls so much, right? It's mostly those life lessons that we can impart onto those people that go on. And I think the biggest life lesson that I've learned so far is that it's not just us. There's so many lives to impact. There's so many people that are out there that are kind of looking for a little bit of guidance. And uh, we talked about fundamentals. We talked about recruiting and how there's so many resources on NCSA, and we also talked about kind of what's available and how do you open people's eyes a little bit earlier to kind of show them, look at the opportunity, look at where we could go, look at all the different things that we can learn, and maybe just what the path is for softball, because it is a little bit, I would think, confusing. It's not like college football. It's not like basketball. It's not like baseball. We're not going into this, it's not a male world in terms of what softball can do for us. Softball, to me, there's great opportunities in college. There's great opportunities in coaching. Um, and one of the biggest things that I wanted to do with Defense Club is create some resources for parents and also players and coaches. Like I have a couple courses in there. I'm not sure if you've been around the actual online platform, but there's a course in there for like beginner parents. Um, what should what should she be able to do at this age? What are the things that you can look at home for maybe those 10 minutes a day home reps for parents and for players, that kind of thing. Like if you're just getting started in softball, what are resources that I use? Where do I look for
Yep.
those new and upcoming things? So those are inside my online platform. And for people just getting started, you don't need to go and pay for a ton of these different platforms just to learn. Free resources are great if you know where to look for them, right? That's
Yes.
the true hack of softball, I think, is there's so much information. Just names that you had mentioned, Austin Wasserman, amazing, super smart guy, way smarter than me, but I'm learning from him on the throwing side. Lou Cologne, on the baseball side, him and I are doing a project together, the similarities and differences between softball and baseball. I really, really like him. He does a lot of work in the Dominican Republic. He's worked in professional baseball. And again, baseball is not softball, but there's a ton of similarities fundamental
Oh,
wise. So
absolutely.
why not learn from people that have been doing it for a long, long time on the professional side? Um, Drew Walsh, his Instagram handle is Fast Development. He has a ton of movement drills. His background is in athletic training, so how to move the body, how to develop speed, how to change direction based on infield movement. I really, really like him for that. Get a lot of my kind of ideas for different drills there. Obviously, I've got my own free resources on Instagram, defense lessons. But yeah, I would say get curious, right? In terms of
Absolutely.
if you really love softball and you're like, hey, what's next? As much as maybe Coach K has been coaching for 30 years, I've made this like my full-time life mission to like spread information. You don't have to be at that level, but if you really love softball, you want to get better, you want to help your team, definitely spend an hour or two just looking up different things and going, okay, I could do that. I could get 1% better doing a different drill. I could get 1% better committing to 20 minutes a day of wall ball. And one thing I do want to address before we get off is um, specific drills to include in that 10 minutes or 20 minutes a day that are really going to get you dialed in fundamental wise. Even though wall ball is such a low, uh, it can be a low effort drill. Knees down, get a tennis ball, get a, I really like actually, what are these? A little bit heavier rubber balls. They are not badminton, not, gosh, they're not tennis balls. They're
Lacrosse?
lacrosse balls. I love lacrosse balls
Yep,
because there's a little bit more of a consequence when you don't catch it right. Right, it's
yep,
gonna hit you in the hand. But get a tennis ball. Get something really easy.
yep.
Go 100 reps right in front, practice transferring middle. A lot of kids, even with that, will bring their glove up to their ear and then their transfer that starts their throw is inconsistent. We need to break from the middle so that we're able to, I mean, if you watch all of Austin Wasserman's drills, this
Mhm.
action and loading our scap is so
Yes,
critical to having a good healthy throw. um, Once we bring the ball up here, then we're serving a pizza, pushing the ball. I'm sure you see that a lot.
absolutely. Uh, that's one of the biggest things that I have had to work on our head coach with. He's kind of old school, but it was really neat the other day in practice. He was teaching the girls throwing, and he got to a point and he goes, and Coach K is going to like this. And he changed. I got him to watch the Austin Wasserman videos, and he changed his ways. And it was really good because we have a lot of pushers, and to get them to change is really difficult. I live in the off season in the winter in Las Vegas, and I tell the girls, I said, you're not slot machines. Arm does not go that way. We turn our body and we make a solid throw. And it's been really hard to get them to change from the way that they've learned to throw. And yeah, you're exactly right. The stuff that's available that they can watch for free. And one of the things that we created for our team is an Instagram site where we have them, uh, the various different sites like yours, like Austin Wasserman's, DR3 Fast Pitch, where it's out there, and I like for them to look for things. Hey, Coach K, I'm having a problem with this. Go research it. You can figure stuff out, and I like them to be their own coach, and then we work on things like that. Um, uh, I haven't had a girl that was lunging, and that's how we figured it out. We went online, we looked for drills, and it was, I believe, it's a baseball coach, Antonelli,
Mhm.
um, that we
Like,
found a drill for lunging, and it's incredible. One of the other things I'd like to, say to everyone else that one thing doesn't work for everyone. You get people that are visual learners. You get people you can tell them something, they can instantly figure it out. Um, you know, that drill worked great with our catcher. We had another player that the very same drill, it didn't work with her. You've got to figure out what works with, one person may not work with another. And that's where the information that's available out there, try different things. And it's amazing how it works.
it truly is. And I think this only works if you've got a vision for where you want to go. So
Yes.
I think that it really helps having someone like you that has been around the game and has that perspective of like, wow, look at all these opportunities. So you're leading the charge in that. And then also continuing to introduce them to other perspectives, other coaches, so they can learn for themselves. Because as much as it is very gratifying to hear kids say it how you say it, right? Like, hey, this is awesome to have those mirrors. How much more gratifying is it to have them like have their own goals in the sport, have their own wants and dreams and vision for their lives, and kind of see the sport work in their lives like it's worked in our own lives is really, really cool.
In my professional job, I came from a corporate environment, and I'm a huge believer in goals. And it's one thing that I talk to the players. You know, you'll get a player that goes there and they're working on their hitting, and you ask, "Well, what are you working on?" "Well, I'm going to take 10 swings." And I'm like, "No, what are you working on? What is it that you're working on your swing?" And that's something that I talk to them about all the time, is that you have to understand what your goals are, what you're working on. We're about ready to do a player evaluation of every player, and they do their own. What is it that you need to work on? What are your goals from now until we start our season next year? And we're not just going to let it happen. We're going to have a plan. And that's something that's very important. They need to have a plan. And I do believe, something else you alluded to, it's not just about softball, it's about life. And I've got a niece that works at Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A has a hiring process that incorporates people that have played team sports. They actually look for that when they're looking for employees. And when they're looking for someone to run a restaurant, they look to see, have you had a background in team sports? And team sports are very important. It's different than an individual sport like golf, and it teaches you things that help you in life. It's not just about softball; it's about life.
100%. 100%. Well, I'm going to wrap this up. This was a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. And I hope that you guys watching this uh, feel empowered. If you're in the same situation, um, there's never, I, no matter where you are, there's always information that can help you. No matter where you are, especially in the sport of softball, there's going to be people that are in your corner ready to help.
Absolutely. It's amazing. The softball coaching community is fabulous. That's all I can say about it. I've never met a coach that's not willing to help. I mean, there may be some that, keep their deep down secrets to themselves, but for the most part, they give you everything that they've got because they want the game to grow.
Thank you so much. This is awesome.
Thank you. This is great. I am so glad I found you, and I can't wait to work with you more and utilize your drills to make our players better.